And one of the hardest, most worrisome parts of this generation, they don't think they can improve their lives. See, millennials thought they could do anything, right? They are the Mark Zuckerberg generation. We're not seeing that with these young people. They don't want to be in charge. They're afraid.
Welcome to Hero Journey Online. Today we are talking about something that is a little bit controversial, but it's something that sits at the heart of the Hero Journey framework. And it's a topic that our culture seems to have lost the plot on in a pretty significant way. And that is therapy culture. My joke is that we've become the Lego movie people, but instead of everything is awesome, our theme song is trauma. This is an important topic, and it's one that needs to be handled well. So I'm going to play this clip, and I'm going to be providing some commentary along the way. This is from a recent conversation between Joe Rogan and Abigail Shrier. Let's dive in.
Because as a parent, like, you want to hear kids out. And when they're having like some sort of anxiety and issue, you want to talk with them and you want to talk through it. Sure. And you don't want to tell them, hey, you're going to have to suck it up. I never say that. And I probably should. I mean, I don't know if I should. But I mean, if I had boys, I probably would. I think I would probably treat them differently. But I think that there's a fine line. Like, where is the point of diminishing returns? Like, where is it valuable to address feelings and anxiety and thoughts? And is it irresponsible to do so without giving them tools to mitigate those things? And along with those tools, to explain to them that there's things that they're going to have to do in this life that are very difficult, right, but that there's a great reward in doing these very difficult things.
So the problem, as I see it, is not that you're not saying suck it up. It's that no one ever says suck it up, no matter how minor the scratch to these kids, okay? And sometimes being told you'll live. Remember when Dad used to say you'll live or, shake it off? We never hear shake it off anymore. No one says it. So they don't know they can overcome even minor injuries. And the truth is, they can.
Okay, so the first thing to respond to here is that this is kind of like teach a man to fish. As a parent, I fully understand the desire to make your kids feel seen and loved and supported and safe. But here's the thing. If you overly protect and coddle your kids, they will be safe and secure today. But if you help them develop resilience and an ability to adapt and to overcome adversity, they'll be set for life. This is how my wife and I do it. We've got 3 boys. And as a dad, my primary goal isn't to keep my kids safe in the short term. Sure, that's a big part of it. But our goal is to raise competent and confident and well-adjusted and well-equipped individuals. When you have kids, you have this mostly controlled environment. To a large degree, you decide what comes into that environment. And this may sound strange, but you can introduce controlled adversity and help them navigate it together. So parenting is managing increasing levels of freedom and responsibility and then helping them navigate the consequences of their actions or their inactions. You don't want to wait until they're out on their own to have to face the real world. You get to introduce them to it in a graduated way as they develop. And it starts with this mindset that Joe's talking about here, that life is hard. You're going to have to face difficult things, but there's a reward for facing them. That's the hero's journey in a nutshell. When you willingly overcome hard things, you get a reward. You grow, you learn, you develop skills and collect knowledge and wisdom. And the harder the challenge, the greater the reward. Okay, back to the clip.
They recently did these studies on these, coping techniques. They taught coping techniques to teenagers, over 1,000 teenagers in Australia. It was called the Wise Teens Program. They talked to, that was the point. It was just to help them with emotional regulation. And it turned out it made kids sadder and more anxious. They measured this. And the reason was regularly ruminating on your bad feelings can make you feel worse.
I never really considered that until your book. Until I heard the title of your book and I read the synopsis of it. I never really considered it. I never considered that thinking about your problems all the time and talking about your problems all the time literally make the problems grow.
That's right. I mean, it's the number one symptom of depression is what they call rumination, this pathological obsessing over your pain.
Yeah.
That's why stuff like exercise, that's one of the reasons, aside from chemical reasons, one of the reasons that doing anything, you know that running errands is good for your mental health? Getting out of your house and accomplishing anything is good for you. But sitting around talking and thinking about your problems, that's a bad habit. And the best cognitive behavioral therapists and others, you know, the dialectical behavioral therapists, the ones who do really well with depression, the first thing they do is try to break that bad pattern. But a lot of therapists just indulge it.
It's a luxury that's provided to you by a life that's fairly safe. You know, people that live in war-torn countries and have very difficult lives, they don't have that luxury of just sitting around all day and doing nothing and, I go outside and run errands. That's going to make me feel better. You're dealing with like real stress.
That's right.
And I think that there's an expression that someone told me once, and I say it all the time. The worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. If it's you got a dent in your car or it's your parents get killed in a car accident, either one of those things is the worst thing, depending upon the level of whatever stress or anxiety or horrible things that you've experienced in your life. That sort of measure, that's your watermark for what you can and can't tolerate.
That's right. And what we should be telling kids is that the amazing story of human history is of resilience. It used to be the case that people lost a sibling. That was common. People lost a parent. That still happens, right? These things still happen. And the amazing story of human history doesn't mean it's not painful, but of resilience. They get on. They aren't permanently suffering with mental illness or mental problem. They form families. They are responsible in their jobs. They show up for work. They can be depended on by their friends. That's the story of human survival and resilience. And unfortunately, we're telling kids, no, you've had trauma.
Okay, so there's a balance here. Developing self-awareness is super important. We don't want to be like some of the people in our grandparents' generation. We don't want to just drive the car and ignore the smoke coming from the hood or the clunking noise. Being able to understand what's going on inside of you, how you react to certain things, how you respond when you don't have certain things in place, and why that is, how you're doing at any given moment. All of this stuff is incredibly helpful, but everything needs to be held in balance. And also, all great lies are built on a real truth or real truths. And the great lie that we've bought into is that if something is adverse, it's bad. If there is an inconvenience, whether it be a thing or a person, we need to avoid it. Otherwise, we're going to be traumatized. And this begins the downward spiral. So here's how it goes. People are anxious or sensitive. So naturally, you want to treat them with more tenderness and empathy and gentleness. But when people are treated with kid gloves all the time, they get more sensitive because resilience is built through adversity. And without adversity, you stay soft. And then you require more soft treatment, which makes you even more soft. And pretty soon, you end up with our culture as it is today, where people are traumatized because their parents didn't get them the right cereal in the morning.
That didn't mean that dad didn't lose his job and they were forced out of the, they had to lose their house, or these things happen. They've happened in every family. And I think one of the many reasons that kids don't know this today is we've cut them off from extended family. The story of their grandparents is a story of resilience in almost every case. Right? You hear about your family history, and you're going to hear a story of pain and survival and resilience and overcoming. But today you've got teenagers who say, I can't drive past my middle school where I was bullied because of my PTSD.
Okay, one more thing to say here, and then I'm going to let the clip play out to the end. This is one of the fundamental principles of Hero Journey. The story you tell yourself defines your reality. The beauty of Hero Journey is that it's a story framework that allows you to see yourself inside of a story that matters, not just for you, but for the world around you. It's directly counter to the nihilism and postmodern relativism of our time. They say there's no meta-narrative, there's no objective reality, and therefore there's no objective purpose to my existence. So why should I try to do hard things? Why should I take responsibility for my life? And the result of that is a victim perspective that says, all of this stuff that is happening to me, it's happening to me. And what's more is there's no purpose to it. Of course, it's going to be traumatizing. Hero Journey says your life matters. There is a call to adventure. And if you answer it, you can have a life that is not only meaningful to you, you can make the world a better place for the people around you too. You can bring heaven to earth. And that's a much better story. A side note on the topic of adversity, if there is something in your way, you have a choice. You can look at it as an obstacle or as an affordance, as something that you can use and leverage it to your advantage. If you let it stop you, then it's an obstacle. But if you instead take advantage of the new possibilities that are presented by that thing, now it's an affordance and you can use it to hopscotch your way forward. Okay, back to the clip.
Do you have anxiety? Yeah, anxiety exists for a reason. It's actually adaptive. And so there are benefits to anxiety and there are negative parts of anxiety. Now, I'm not talking about anxiety disorder. We don't want anyone to suffer with an anxiety disorder that interferes with daily life. But a little anxiety, feeling bad, and a bad memory, that's not only part of life, but it can have positive effects. So some of the positive effects of anxiety is it helps with performance. If I weren't nervous for this right now, I wouldn't have prepared so much to make sure I remembered what I was going to talk about, right? And we don't want someone with no anxiety crossing a street because he's not going to look for cars.
Right. Yeah.
And we're going in with medication and we're deleting things like anxiety, depression. Anxiety helps you make beautiful memories. You remember Christmas morning because of all the nerves about it ahead of time, or you remember your first kiss partially because of the anxiety. That's why the memories are so clear.
Right.
And when we go in and we give kids a pill for that, not only are they not developing an emotional musculature they're going to need as adults, but they're losing a really important part of the human experience, like feeling low because you were dumped and then seeing you can get over it. Same is true with depression. Now, I'm not talking about major depressive disorder that's chronic and needs treatment, of course, right? But if you have something bad happen to you, you go through a divorce, you go through something hard, okay? That doesn't mean you should never try, use meds or therapy if you absolutely need it. But there can be good. And here's what can be good, okay? Depression is adaptive, okay? And the purpose, I learned this from interviewing a lot of evolutionary psychologists. And one of the good things about depression is it shuts us down so we don't do anything rash and we think about what change we might want to make in our life. Because sometimes we need to make a change. And if we just medicate away the bad feelings, the worst feelings might be dampened, but we also might be locked into that low state and never make the change we need to make.
Right.
Because we'll lose the motivation. That's the thing. We won't say, you know what? He treated me badly. I'm tired of this. I'm not getting back together with him.
Right.
We might just accept it and keep on.
Right, especially if you're medicated.
Especially if you're medicated.
Yeah.
That will to make a big change often happens after we've been brought low.
Abigail says it here. We are not talking about clinical examples or truly traumatic events that require serious professional help. The point of this conversation isn't to say that therapy is bad. If you need help, it's actually a sign of strength to go ask for it. What we're talking about is just normal human life. Life is hard. That is why throughout human history, we have told stories of endurance and overcoming. It's why we've taught our kids to face their problems. It's why we tell them that they can move mountains, because overcoming obstacles makes you stronger and it makes you less susceptible to be negatively impacted by the next obstacle that comes around. I'm interested in seeing our culture rekindle its sense of humor about life, its sense of defiant optimism. Western civilization was built upon the triumph of the human spirit that says, "Here I tread, come what may." That's it for today, folks. If you enjoyed this video, I'm going to be doing a lot more of this type of content on this channel, so subscribe below. Until next time, keep on that narrow path.